Okay, I'm joined by the former Texas Longhorns beat writer for The Athletic and the newest NFL writer for The Ringer, Kalen Jones. Kalen, man, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm glad you can make time for us big time because, first you was going to cover a team that was supposed to be back in a very different way, right? Not 8-5, but
Right.
actually coming for it all. And now you're moving on to cover another league and what I think of as another sport. But I asked you here, so we talk about Texas. So let's talk about Texas. Coordinator changes on both sides, different schemes on both sides. I feel like both of those schemes are going to much better match what they are facing in the Big 12 and in non-conference. But like I mentioned to you in the pre-taping, I am excited about Jordan Whittington, Jake Smith, and Bijan Robinson. Only thing is the offensive line going to be any good outside of Sam Cosmi? I mean, what do you think? What are your expectations for that offense?
Oh yeah. So I mean, like you hit the nail on the head. Like I'm upset. Like I was telling you before, I wish I was there to see what Jordan Whittington is going to do. I've been hyped about him since I saw his high school tape last year, and unfortunately only got to play one game before he missed the rest of the year. But like the combination, like you mentioned, like three difference makers, and I tell people all the time, like when you talk about college football, it really only takes like one or two difference makers. You know what I'm saying? Like a CD Lamb, like last year for Oklahoma, like was a difference maker, outside of that wide receiver unit. And I think in Texas, when you talk about what Jake Smith could become, what Jordan Whittington could become, what Bijan Robinson could become, like those are three difference makers on offense. And I think that gives Texas a completely different dimension than what it's had, over the course of the past 2 years. And again, you pair that up with Mike Yursich, who has, proven track record over at Oklahoma State with, what are fairly, I would say, like lesser weapons. So, I mean, again, like you mentioned, the offensive line. If they're able to solidify that, Derek Kerstetter is supposed to slide over at center. You got Junior Angulau, who looked pretty good last year. As far as the tackle position, I mean, we've seen Denzel Okafor's name be floated over there, even though he kind of had his name in the transfer portal at first. And I mean, they were in the market, at least in the grad transfer market for another offensive tackle, or excuse me, offensive lineman, similar to what they did with Parker Braun last year, which was a plug and play option. But they haven't so far. They haven't added that piece yet. And I think the continuity, with the lack of spring practices, abbreviated off season, could definitely have some type of impact on that and how that works out. But again, you have a mastermind, or I guess like a senior quarterback in Sam Ehlinger, who arguably is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation at this point in his career. So I think that, added with the weapons that they have, the simplistic offense that is utilized to take advantage of the skill sets that, their weapons have, I think it makes for a really good mix when you talk about what this offense is capable of, especially, going into the 2020 season.
So with Mike Yursich, I got familiar, as you probably know, watching his teams at Oklahoma State with Mike Gundy, and Justice Hill is from down the road, right? So I paid
Mm-hmm.
very close attention, and what they were able to do with him in a single back set was phenomenal, which allowed Mason Rudolph to operate. The only issue that I have so far with Sam is he going to be able to toss it as well as they're going to need him to toss it? I mean, he's going to need to complete 72, 73% of his passes, and ideally is passing for over 4,000 yards in that offense with perhaps a 1,500-yard tailback. And that's on top of, I don't really like Keontae Ingram that much, but if I don't, he's still the second or third best tailback on that depth chart. So you can go three deep after what Roshan Johnson showed.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's also a matter of how quickly does Bijan Robinson become the bell cow back, because I think that I have compared that dude to Earl Campbell in how he can make an impact on the university itself, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
before Earl Campbell shows up, Dale Royal is taking L after L after L to Barry Switzer. And then he has a bad junior year. He comes back. He wins the Heisman. They fall one game short of winning a national championship, losing to Notre Dame. I think that's who Bijan Robinson can be for a program that prides itself on being back, but also prides itself on being able to run the football. I mean, this is a place that invented the wishbone. So the question I have is, do you
Mm-hmm.
think Yursich leans more on Ellinger's experience, even as he's not that polished a passer, or he just tries to get one of those dudes to assume themselves as the bell cow back in that offense?
Damn, that's a good question because I think there's somehow going to be a balance there, right? Because I mean, you look at the numbers. Ellinger, when he's completed over 70% of his passes, he's 12-0 in his career. So, and I mean, when he's not on,
That's a
I
great
think that's
stat.
yeah, I mean, when he's not literally that, and that's what I was trying to tell people last year. Like when he's not on, UT struggles. I think they were 5-8. He completed like 60% of less of passes in his career, like 5-8. So, or 5-8. So, I mean, it really comes down to whether or not he's on. And in the intermediate game, I think he's pretty solid. Deep passes, that's where I thought he really struggled. And it was weird because like PFF had a stat, I think in 2018, where he was like ranked among the best, deep passers in, college football. And I never, he doesn't have the velocity on the ball. But, again, like I think with the continuity in the system, like from what we've been told, Tom Herman's system is still, the basic principles of his system are still in place. And plus they were able to install that during, winter conditioning period. Granted, it's on pads and, you're not playing against defenses and whatnot. But, when you have that ability, at least, that experience throwing the ball to your weapons who are going to be in the system this year, I think that's a little bit of an advantage. So I don't know how quickly Bijan Robinson, acclimates himself to college football. Some of the coaches like I talked to for that piece I did where I did like an oral history on his high school career, he played at a lower level. But the thing was, when you played at a higher level against opponents, who are in the bigger Arizona high school classes like Chandler University, I might as well be Chandler High School. Like he looked like he looked like the clear best player on the field. So I think whether or not that translates immediately over into his first season at Texas, we'll see. I definitely, like you mentioned, like Keontae Ingram, like he's going to have to take another step, to really prove himself as a number one tailback. But again, like that backfield between Ingram, Bijan Robinson, and Rashawn Johnson, that's lethal. That's lethal when you talk about what the potential could be. So I think there's going to be a balance because, again, like you have so many weapons at receiver and even guys who could switch over to running back. Really, when you talk about Whittington and Jake Smith, those guys are interchangeable. So they'll probably play in the backfield some. Again, like the lack of spring practices and the abbreviated offseason is going to impact what Texas is probably going to be able to do as far as, variance. But still, I think that there's enough weapons to where they can choose to be balanced. It'll probably be based, according to what, opponents are doing defensively and adjusting to that.